Hey everybody. The last one we were talking, I've kind of been going chronologically, and we decided to talk about, like, jump way back years ago to when we first, as her family, we first started noticing things, or that she was struggling. So I think one of the first things I noticed was depression, down, and
How did you see that manifesting?
isolating, and then always just not feeling comfortable even when you were in a group with people you should have been comfortable with.
Right. And at this point, we knew very little about mental illness. So that, recognizing that, hey, she's isolating, she's not comfortable, she's having trouble, like, socializing normally with people she's always been around, like, that doesn't recognize, hey, that's a sign of depression. We were very uneducated about that.
Right. No clue. Literally no clue. I think one of the first things I noticed was we were headed to driver's ed.
Yeah.
You were driving. You were
got
behind
my
the
learners.
wheel. Yeah. And you're sitting there. We were just leaving the house, and hands are on the wheel. And I looked over, and I saw on the inside of your left wrist, I saw cut marks.
That
You do
very
remember?
vividly. Yep. You asked me, what are those? And I tried to say I scratched myself on the
Goat
fence.
fin.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember that was one of the first, like, it was one of that sinking, oh my gosh, what is this? What and why? And then you jangled your bracelets down to cover
Right,
it real
I was
quick.
already wearing bracelets, and then that was when I started wearing long sleeves. Yeah, because I went through a period where I was wearing long sleeves,
Yeah,
and that was
I remember that.
Yep.
So, because to me, self-harm was something, again, that I had heard of, but was a foreign concept to me.
Yeah,
And
it was foreign to me, yeah.
So I was wondering if you could talk about that just a little bit, because it is an untouchable. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah, we hear a lot about addiction and we hear a lot about mental illness, but the problem is we hear about them separately. And that's a problem because substance abuse is defined as a mental illness, and most people who have substance abuse problems also have mental illness issues. They're really tied together. In my case, that's very well seen. They're very tied together, always have been. I was doing things to change how I feel, which is the same as addiction. That's what addiction is. Long before I ever touched a drug. I didn't become an addict when I got physically dependent on any one drug. It was long before that. And self-harm was a big part of where that started. We say self-harm because that covers a lot of different things. For me, cutting was my primary form of self-harm, but that looks like a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. And this is a really hard topic to talk about, and it's really triggering for people who deal with this. So self-harm is a less like abrasive term, and it's a lot easier to hear and talk about. So my addiction started with self-harm. I couldn't even understand for myself, much less put into words to somebody else for years after I started doing that, as to why was I doing this? You know, I didn't enjoy pain. It wasn't that. It was never that.
Was it something like a release of, or instead of being numb all the time, you could feel something? Like, what?
At times there was numbness as my depression progressed, and it got really worse. There were times where there was numbness and disassociation, and it was hard to feel anything. Sometimes it was hard to tell what was real. You would ask me if it was like as a release. That word didn't really make sense to me in the beginning. I couldn't really wrap my head around it, and the way I was able to understand it, the reason I was doing things is there was so much going on in my head, and I had so much pain in my head, and it was so hard to, like, exist within myself that the physical action would draw me out of that, and the sharpness of the feeling would draw me out of the pain in my head. And then later on, drugs became the same thing. It was the exact same process behind the action, reasons behind the action. It was essentially, when it boils down to it, to change how I felt.
And that was addiction, where addiction started.
Exactly.
I remember doing the laundry, and
Yeah.
clothes would come through with stains where they shouldn't be. Do you feel like it was kind of stayed the same, or did you did the self-harming thing get worse?
Oh, that definitely progressed. Definitely. It vastly progressed, yes. Very much so.
So the more that you're struggling with and dealing with in your head, the worse the self-harming.
Right, and it also, same with the drugs, like, your tolerance builds. So, as things got worse in my head, the same quantity of whatever didn't have the same effect anymore.
Gotcha.
So I had to take it to the next level, and that was with self-harm, and that was with every other behavior that I had to change how I felt, and eventually that was alcohol and drugs. Yeah.
I think the first time I saw it, my first thought was death. You're trying to kill yourself, and it's like
Right.
like the ultimate, because nobody else.
I mean, that's a really common like misconception about it, because people are not educated. Yeah, and sometimes
that's not what it means.
that's what. Actually, rarely is that what that is.
Right.
And it's not an attention thing. I tried desperately to keep that secret for a long time. For a short period of time, I successfully did keep it a secret before she saw them. And then when it was brought to my attention that I was aware, it moved to not my arms anymore. So
Yeah.
it was the same secret, just hidden better. Yeah, but it was that at that point that was never a terminal attempt. That was never a suicide attempt. So thanks for watching this video. At this time, unfortunately, our footage got cut off, but we just wanted to tell you a little bit of the backstory, a little bit of the beginnings of the hardest time. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on Facebook too while you're at it. And don't forget to hug your mom.